Good morning, good morning. Hello, hello. So, on the Harmonia, so we do have on the higher time frames a full trend set up, but we don't have one established just yet. I would like to see a 20% form on the intraday lower time frame, 5, 6. So no, let's see, anywhere below. So we do have here starting to get there, but to be confident in. So we've established it on the higher time frame, but that doesn't mean we'll completely go just yet. We might, but the safest route is for us to form a confirmation of this 20% on a lower time frame, pull back to it, and then take our intraday move. And I don't believe, at least not for ES and NQ, for the 10 o'clock hour on KRATOS is in the trade just yet. We're in this chop, this range you can see. Russell is, and YM is. These are really the only ones I pay attention. So we'll monitor those. But here I want to see that this area is where our sellers are positioned. That could flip the market a little further down, which could very well happen, and push all the way to EQ, and then we form that 20% area for the upside. So far, it's avoided it. At least, let me clear out these other things that I've got some 9 a.m. stuff testing, and so far, my bias is obviously bullish, but I would like to see a pullback further, either to the all the way to the EQ, form a 20% on the intraday charts, like we have here, but you can see we're not really staying closing above it, which tells us that the bullish the buys are failing still, so we're still in a consolidation. So what that means is what we would look for below seller positioning is that accumulation and the manipulation to match what's on our higher time frame. That would be the ideal setup. Since we are missing below 15-minute, I think we had it on 10. See, still not a full range formed on the 10-minute. So for me, it doesn't tell me that we're ready to completely establish the move to the upside for the day. But it could be where we don't form the 20 on the lower time frames, because they've really been one directional, and we may not see a two-sided range yet. But the other side is if you wanted to, you could use these levels, which I have marked here, and since we didn't quite close above this, use this as your interaction. And just position on like MESs, like 1 or 2 at a time, just in case you do draw back a little. But most importantly, you would want to close a pullback from this area that we've been wicking off of, a pullback where we do close above it, preferably even the wick above it, but we don't want anything closing below it. Because it's still a strong indication when it's on a 15 or 30. You have to leave room for some downsize. So you can mark that area, and if you wanted to, it's the 80% on the 2-minute chart. So use this 80. I'll just move it up a bit so you can see it. Pull back down, close above, and then enter, or start to enter 1 or 2 MESs, add to it. If you pull back a little bit more, maybe add to it. Sorry, Tish. I will try to talk louder. Let me know if that's better. I made some adjustments, so hopefully. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat either. So I'll turn up the volume input. I'm not a screamer. I kind of just sit and talk to myself over here, but I'll try to monitor it. Important thing is we're just looking for a confirmed pullback to this 20% where the candle, preferably the wick and the body, close above this 20%. If you want to use this confirmed range, we don't have a 10%. That's okay. 20, 50, and 80. Mark that. Drop down on the 2 minute. The 20% is the 80 on the lower time frame. Look for a candle close. What I like to see is like 4 or 5, which is what we have here, go above. So 4 or 5 closed candles, which we do have here, and then the pullback. I don't like it when it's just like one candle, then we pull back. I prefer to see like this, 4 or 5, pull back. A little bit of wick's okay. I prefer the wick and the top of the body to close. I'll start adding to positioning. But since we're right around the 20, I would build in slow just in case we do pull back and form a lower range. It was a little bit of thinking out loud. But the important thing is just find on one of these higher time frames, like 15 and up, where you have a confirmed. Now this is going to be, an hour is going to be more for a sweep, looking to carry over. So I would say like maybe a 30-minute. We do 80, 50, 20, and a 15-minute for intraday purposes on the indicator. It does line up with this gamma, and positive gamma does repel price, so that could be what pushes us back down to get a better entry. But once we sell above it, think of it as one of those pitching machines with the wheel. Once you throw the ball in and it's above this area, it's going to accelerate it, repel it up to the upper levels here. But if we're still below it and it doesn't break, then we'll get a repel down. Whereas negative gamma works as a magnet. But you can see we don't have a lot of negative gamma to really pull it down below the equilibrium. So what we're hoping for is a good entry by pushing it back down to the 20% and closing above it, and then taking or cutting our profits at 50%. We should start to see a little bit of ranging there, maybe some pullback, maybe even to this level, or if we get an updated level before we finish the ultimate move. While that's doing that, let me pull up some others. NQ the same, so we're starting to get to that area. And anytime you see like a red 10% and all of that up in the green area, that's just the confirmed move on the opposite side down. So we had 10%, wicked off of it, went to the full move to 80. So that's just the move on the opposite side. And those areas, because they were key areas on the opposite on the move down, they'll be, as you can see here, key areas on the opposite side where you could see resistance. So that's why I leave them on the chart, and they don't repaint. So those levels are set once they get printed. And as you can see here, even on the opposite side with the up move, we wicked directly off of that 10% that started the full down move to the 80. And of course, putting NQ and ES beside each other, once you get a break above the 20 on NQ, is in a wick is probably the same time that ES now would be confirmed wanting to move in the same direction. And that's why you're seeing this now, because NQ is still a bit behind. So it always helps to have them beside each other, because one typically leads the other. And KRATOS obviously is avoiding this chop so far. If we get a bit above, a little bit further, it may take an entry. But then you can compare here how strong of that move might be by knowing how to read the Harmonia indicator. And I'm going to turn off this. I don't need it. It's to help you guys. The thing with the Harmonia is patience. If you wait for the right setup, then you have a high percentage. It's like 90% if you do everything proper in catching a big move. So I'm going to make sure I don't log into a live account or put an actual account up there with a balance. YouTube seems to not like that when you show your actual P&L on the screen in a live trade, so we'll do it this way. On one ES, if we were to catch most of this move, 1675, I would have my stop loss probably right here. But realistically, if we wick and close above and we enter, add position, if we got too far down, I'd probably just go ahead and cut the loss, because there's no reason, especially not, EQ would be obviously the last positioning, but for me it's not even worth going that if I start to close. And that really just depends on if I started within full ES, then I might have a tight stop loss somewhere here or here, I would still be okay here. $500, still 3-1. And we can cover that loss pretty quickly. But the smart thing would be to position in with MES, add to as you go along. And that way, if you do get a drawdown, it's only on 1 or 2 MESs at first. This here is a little sneak peek that I'm working on. Is a kind of a hybrid KRATOS Harmonia on RTH. You can see here a hybrid. Just some things I'm working on. It looks like both ES and NQ on KRATOS are going to try and catch this short. I have good confidence in it with us rejecting off of this higher gamma level. And kind of what I anticipated is to form that 20% on the intraday. Or target on the rotation, the EQ. So this is what KRATOS thinks we're going to do, at least. That kind of lines up, like I said, with what I'm thinking also. I don't think we completely go to 80 at this point. I think we pull back at least to this area, which would still be a decent move, so we'll watch it. That's our gamma level. Let's check everybody's trades. Looks like everyone is in, even stir fry today. So we'll watch these KRATOS trades play out, since we know this is kind of our area on both sides of resistance. And 69.82 is our EQ. Seller positioning 93. So all the way down here. So we'll watch this area right here. This should be the main target. And that's right below our 20%. So right now I'd say that both Harmonia and KRATOS at this time both agree with each other. That's what we like to see. If we break above this and close, I get a bit more concerned, but just as we saw yesterday, it did do that, and we were on shorts, and it went into the bullish area, but then ultimately came back down. So we'll just let it play out. 925. So that area is the main resistance. So if ES was leading in Q, this is what we want to see. This pushing the reversal, this pulling in Q down, and hopefully ES with it. So we get the KRATOS plays and then ultimately set up a better entry for the Harmonia indicator. And as I've mentioned a few times, so far we are getting the pull down that I want to see. I just need more. On Harmonia, EQ is never an entry point, but it is a target. So when your hint on the table tells you a rotational target, that's when you get a rejection off a key level, and then EQ should be what you target. So, for instance, on Russell, we are getting towards, let's see, was it Russell? Well, I'll just show an example here. If you're overextended, it'll start to form should start to form an overextension up here shortly. You would target, once you have a rejection off a confirmed overextension, you could take shorts in this scenario and target the EQ, and those are some really good setups. So like in this case here, yesterday I took several of these. Once we got rejections here, especially once we broke back below the 80, I took a short and targeted the EQ on gold. Same scenario with silver yesterday. Again, you can see once you reject, target that EQ. what the nice thing is once you understand Harmonia, you can kind of gauge what KRATOS is thinking and have a bias kind of in your mind and know if things are going the opposite way. But just like here lately, it's a slow process these last few weeks. Not like the quick TPs that we like to see. Let's put on here to kind of give you an idea of where our trail TP should start. So we'll use this little sim account. So if we close beyond this, we'll start the trail TP. Oh, that's not the one I went. We hope we don't get all the way up here, but our ultimate max risk would be well above that second 70, 32, 25. Almost at the ceiling, so we certainly don't hope we get the full move to the upside prior to the pullback. So we get a nice win on the KRATOS side and then take an entry to get the full positioning on the Harmonia side. So fingers crossed, but still looks okay. Yeah, the hybrid focus on the Harmonia and KRATOS is to focus more towards the Harmonia indicator as opposed to just rebuilding new entries for the KRATOS. So you'll see and it's also in a oh wait, that's the wrong time frame. It would be 1 minute in RTH. Let's see if it works off just New York. Oh, that's not what I want. Yeah, it hasn't taken a trade during all of these last few days chop. So you're not going to get as many trades because one of the things is it also is waiting for, you have to kind of artificially have algos do things it may not typically do in an actual live scenario where you can see it ahead of time and respond, where the indicators and algos have to wait for a confirmation. So you have to build that into it where you would be able to catch more trades doing it live. But what it does tell you is what significance of maybe some of the settings as far as look back and things like that. You can have data on that you didn't have. So like as opposed to 100 days of data, you obviously see you don't get that great of results. These are the same similar settings that we have on the Harmonia indicator. So obviously 200 we know is a good indication, but really 250 is a bit stronger. So then you almost have an entire year. And then basically what I do is I try to just test different things. A pullback to the 20, a break and hold. In this case, a pullback to the 20. This allows me to somewhat test the way that I'm explaining things to you guys and can see it in real time. So breaking above, say, up here. So that's why acceptance bars. So this is saying that 4 bars closing above the 20 and then pulling back before you enter is the best far as this, as opposed to break and a hold above the 20. So just breaking above it and staying above it and going all the way to the 50. The pullback actually proves to be better. And then testing different stop modes outside of the typical trail that, say, KRATOS might have. And then the same type of anchors that KRATOS uses, as far as using 3 weeks of data for that, and then just being able to test different days. So that allows me to somewhat see some of the settings that I'm using manually and see how they actually hold up without me having to take those trades for 2 or 3 weeks before I can actually see realistically. I can start to tweak that and then forward test it. So ultimately that's where those things come from, is me trying to gauge the way that I'm already entering trades. And then ultimately it may turn into be an actual good enough strategy, but ultimately you're going to get the best entries and stuff because you're going to be able to see it in real time. Us break even when we're below the 20, the algo's still waiting for the response. It goes above it. You can already see it. You can see when it pulls back and wicks off, and get your entries a lot more, as opposed to every perfect scenario lining up in order for the algos to enter. You'll always be able to outperform the algo. But again, it just gives us a way to test some of those types of entries before having to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months that already gives you an idea that you can tweak and see it in real time. Because what I was seeing just by releasing the Harmonia in real time, that 250 was a bit stronger than 200, even though 200 was good. So last night I built that hybrid in order to just gauge that and see it as far as back testing, and sure enough, it lines up with what I was already seeing. And so then we make those adjustments. But ultimately, that was how I started in the beginning of coding. Anyways, I knew nothing about coding or building automation until I was already manually trading for several years, 3 or 4 years. But knew that there was that benefit of being able to see what I was doing without having to wait several months of getting forward testing data, that I could kind of gauge it off an idea similar to what I was doing. It's never exactly, but it still gives you enough that you can see those small tweaks. And because I don't use any indicators whatsoever, so there's no, and it's off of closed daily candles for weeks, or in this case, an entire year. So there's no chance of repainting or things changing in trading view from live data to historical data, because we're using a confirmed daily previous candles at minimum 3 weeks, and right now on Harmonia an entire year, almost 252 trading days. Yeah, those overextensions are the outside. I mean, they might actually be my favorite because there's just not a high chance of, unless it's silver right now, which is just artificially inflated with all the hype. But it's a pretty solid entry, as long as you leverage right, entering in a few micros here and there, or minis, and then just targeting the EQ. this should start to adjust RTY once it gets a little bit more pullback and confirm that as the new overextension. This would be the one from previous Tuesday. And then you'd be able to start shorting RTY towards the EQ. So we should see consolidation around these areas. Yeah, and when you're on the 1 minute, those are going to be real quick. Just a couple of points. But I would definitely, if I was on something that short, I would look and make sure on a higher time frame, at least the 15 minute, that you're also below EQ, just for a safer trade. Just kind of give you an idea. I don't want to be on the naughty list, so I won't show the actual entries we're in. But it's definitely kind of interesting now looking at my traders post when I have 48 accounts right now, all in the same trade, between all the hedge accounts and my accounts. The traders post definitely looks interesting these days, especially when it's red. The max loss would definitely be well overextended, or close to, on an intraday. But for the sake of a Harmonia trade, we hope we get close, but we want that pullback first. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting week. I think we're about break even on the hedge accounts, so hopefully we can push past that threshold and get back to those days where we're taking 2 or 3 trades. But at this point, it wouldn't even take, once it closed out this trade on KRATOS, it wouldn't even look for a new trade because we're already at 11 o'clock. So it starts to look for trades during that quarter 3 of the daily. So during this zone, you have your accumulation, your manipulation, distribution. And so it tries to catch it during the distribution stage before we start to get into this quarter at 11, which will either be a continuation or a reversal. In this case, we hope it's a reversal for the sake of KRATOS. And we hope it's not a reversal. Once it gets all the way up here, we hope that it's going to stick to where it starts to look for that reversal now in the market. And then that probably means that unless we just get a lot of movement in the PM, that the full Harmonia trade wouldn't play out until maybe after hours, but could still probably maybe catch the 50. But and see this one. Hopefully it actually entered at the on their paper account, so hopefully YouTube doesn't think I'm showing a live account and deletes my video. It's paper. It's paper. Just for demonstration purposes, not financial advice. Oh, the trail. It'll start around 600, but we're gonna, just so it doesn't immediately shut off the paper account, so you can visually see it on the screen. Trail start around 400 on ES, trail start 600 on NQ. So the trail start has to close beyond it, not just touch it. Get out of the way. Somewhere around there. But hopefully, seeing how KRATOS responds, which uses an entirely different strategy, but how those same levels line up with Harmonia, and kind of gives you that confidence or idea of where the market might go, because the Harmonia will show you that based on this year of data, those levels are what we typically should see. And then ultimately, as far as the hedge accounts, we just let those do its thing. But if you're trading your own accounts with larger leverage or funded accounts, you can recognize pretty quickly if it's a safe route and maybe cut your losses quicker by comparing the two. Or get better positioning. For instance, if KRATOS was at above 80 and below the overextension and went into a bullish trade, that might be a red flag. know what we are missing. The force. Now we're serious. This is what makes you a real trader, right? I know all of your hedge accounts that I monitor are in this trade. Did anyone else take it separately on a funded or another cash account or a prop? Nice. Hopefully others did. Have confidence. I have it currently on 3 funded necks, 5 lucid, 5 tradefies fundeds. Of course, my live account, my hedge account that I do with all of you guys. That's the benefit, and hopefully you guys are taking advantage of that by being able to use the algo for all of your accounts. Yeah, big bucks, no whammies. Make sure too that at the bottom, and that's just a YouTube thing, that your live button by your volume is also red. If not, click it. But yeah, unfortunately, and that's why you wouldn't necessarily want to take live trades. And in this case, the strategies we use, 15 seconds a minute, 2 minute, isn't a big deal. But yeah, that's a YouTube thing. They have a built-in delay, but make sure that that red button by your volume on the YouTube screen is red. If it's gray, that means you're even further behind. That was TP on NQ 750. It should be done. It shouldn't take another trade, so we're going to go ahead and close that one. So a win on NQ 750. Yep, and there is a bit of downside still on NQ. With this highest gamma level there, that should at least attract the price, and you have that median and the session open. So your 6:30 opening price, where there's a lot of buyers and sellers, it should draw it there. So in that should also pull ES towards its also equal. So far it does still look good. And you have also around the same area that positive gamma just below the 20%, and with the weekly opening, so Monday 1700, and then you have a lot of seller positioning here, which I marked, which would kind of flip the bias for say if he stayed below and rejected and went below the equal. A lot of seller positioning there. But We shall see. The Traders Post certainly looks a lot better when we are green. Looks a bit more like Christmas. And of course, as soon as I said that, we get some pullback. Negative Nancy in here. Voting stop loss. Gotta have faith. Seller positioning should still be a draw. Of course, the 20%. Our 400 trail should start somewhere around here, so I hope we push a little. Or I might have to intervene and go ahead and take profits. It won't open another trade now since it's after 3 or 11, at least on the hedge fund accounts for everyone. Come on. I'm about 200 away with 3 contracts on these funded necks for a payout. So let's see. Alright, so we should be good on the algo now. There we go. I can force it to take profit if that's what you want. But you're about 30 seconds away. Or not 30 seconds. If it draws down more, it'll keep in the trade past these 30 seconds. But if it just pulls back, if it gives back a little, it'll go ahead and TP, but it'll stay into it as long as it's pushing down. So we're past now. It'll lock in profit now. If we get any kind of from the highest, there you go. So everybody, small base wins. It kind of pulled back a little crazy right there at the end. But nonetheless, a win. I was hoping it would actually be closer to that 100 mark. And why did this trade not close? Don't want to give that back. Looks like I'm out of everything. Alright, so that's a good win on KRATOS. $400 on the full ES. Base hits on some micros, minis. So now we're going to switch our thoughts to some manual trades. I think we have a little bit, still some downside. We'll see. Close this out. Don't need that. Uh-huh. Look, my little bot said, stop spamming caps. I didn't put that. The little. Yeah, it should have been around 100, but I don't know what that little wick was there at the end. As far as if you're on a couple of MESs, that right at it wicked up again. Slowly but surely. Everyone should be at least in the positive right now since we started. So we're going to look now for, let's see how we're setting up on our lower time frames. If so NQ is still rejecting that 20%, so we're getting rejection on the upside for ES. But I would actually anticipate, and maybe not, since we rejected off the 10% on, we'll see how this goes here. If we get a real rejection off of, what is that? Is that APATOS? Is in a buy. Forgot about that algo running today. So let's pull it up. Yes, this is our Tuesday, Thursday. Why is it not showing? What's going on here? Why is this not showing our take profit line on APATOS? Oh, something is up with the data. It's not moving. There we go. Just needed a refresh. So TP zone there on Algo APATOS. Don't worry, Tish. I want you to owe me lots of money. Daddy needs a Porsche. I can just get $100 off this. It's hard to watch all these accounts. $100 off of this APATOS trade. I'll be in funding request on my Funded Next Bolt accounts. A little over 100 away after that trade on KRATOS. And if we reach the TP zone, then that should be enough, even on 1 ES. Isn't this fun? See, now we have 3 different things, KRATOS, APATOS, and Harmonia to watch. But they play off each other nicely. KRATOS finished before APATOS went in on a reverse. That's always a good sign. And we're still waiting for the ultimate setup on Harmonia. Alright, $50. Give me $50. Definitely if we hit the TP zone here, that'll be enough for my exit on the Funded Next accounts. But I'll let it run on the others. Come on, stay up there. I mean, $10. It peaked above it, and I didn't get to close it. Don't do that. Don't do that. $10. I'm $10 away from being able to close this if it'll stay above it. Come on. $9.55. Come on. Just a little boost. So this is how people blow accounts. I was $10 away from being able to close this trade on my Funded Next accounts. There you go. $6 over. Make sure it lined up on all of them. So now APATOS should take profit. Let's see, did it close above? So $6.40 over. Now I can withdraw from the 3 Bolt accounts. There you go. So a win on KRATOS and APATOS today. So let's go back to here. Hopefully we didn't miss our entry, but that's okay. 2 good wins, payouts coming. We'll be done with the cash accounts today. Yeah, hopefully we can get, ultimately, we still haven't missed on NQ, on Harmonia. If we can get, so again, I still almost anticipate maybe retracing back to EQ on Harmonia before we do this full run, since we don't have a setup yet on lower intraday. Let's see, gold. Gold has just been in this range since Sunday at opening, and down here quite some time. This is the hourly. If we get back up here, I would look for some scalps back down to EQ. Those are the ones that Chef and I have been taking. And you can see here, it's a very small movement, so the better trade would be taking it, because here it's so small that you don't have a 20% confirm, so you would have to get up here, come down, reject to form that 20, and then ultimately the better trade is if you form an extension high, and taking that trade towards EQ would be the better setup for gold. Have a good one, Josh. Josh, I owe you a lucid 50K, so I'll buy that and shoot that over to you. So it was, what was the final? It was 375 because that stupid little wick back, and 750 on KRATOS, E&Q, and then 162-ish on the APATOS algo. So now we turn just to Harmonia today. But again, I don't anticipate, I think we pull back first, and this sets up more for something in the Asian session or playing out all the way through Friday. We shall see. Ultimately, this is what I see. Well, let's draw it how it really, the path should look. A little something like that. But already a good day. Congrats on everyone on the hedge program with KRATOS. We're in that positive zone now. I'm in some fundeds. Actually, I didn't even look at the Tradefies. Those are just running on their own. And the Lucids. I should pay attention to Lucid. It is on those 5. We are $280 away from payout on the 5 Lucids. So if we can get a setup on the indicator, try to knock out $280. So we made, what did we make? 851 on that one. Let's see how the other feels. 876.96. So roughly about 280 to 300 between the 5 lucid to request a payout. Achieve payout on 3 funded next bolts. And then, of course, the cash accounts running on the hedge program. Oof. I might step away for a few minutes, let this do its thing. Unless we get a crazy wick down, I'll be back here shortly.